platform to continue to have conversation around race, mental health, diversity, and the like. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. And I just love to hear, when we talk about how long we've been here, yourself 5 years, Mommy 10 years. And, our first, when I look back to when Noble started 2020, yourself and Mommy were one of our first guests or first members to join Noble. And now fast forwarding 2 years into it, I just love to see how much we've grown. I don't know that we've met each other face to face, but we have that rapport where we can reach out to each other and support each other. So thanks for agreeing to be part of the podcast today. The question I have for you, and I know you're very passionate about your career and the work that you do, but have you ever come across, a situation where, how do you handle yourself in the workplace as a Black individual who's trying to rise up in the organization and, make their presence known and be successful?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, we have to recognize that mental health is not a Black people issue. I think it's a universal issue. It affects everybody. It affects the Native Canadian. It affects all the other immigrants. But us as Black people, our issues are amplified because of the circumstances of race and the history of race in this society. And so from my perspective, I take it as a universal thing, but we have to recognize that it is real and it affects us differently. For instance, a lot of people, when they immigrate to Canada, they go through a lot of challenges and difficulties. Some people get a one-way visa, other people get a work permit, which is attached to an employer. And so when they get here, the employers normally, some of them would confiscate your passport, and that limits you. In other words, you are now owned by these people. Even though we say that racism no longer exists, but these are practice of almost slavery, and so we have to deal with these sort of things because the idea of your employer can make you or break you is something that is embedded into some employers. They try to practice and show you that you are their property. So this sort of attitude and practices kind of rub off, and some other people that would come into organizations like CWB comes with this type of mentality. It is not expressed the same way. They can't confiscate your passport, but I think they have power over you. They own you. You have to work because they are your manager, and you got to actually do things the way they think you're supposed to do. So as a Black person, I don't normally take it that way. I see myself as a universal citizen or global citizen, whatever you want to call it. But I don't put myself into a box where I am waiting for somebody to come and rescue me because someone is actually trying to enforce their way of thinking or their perspective of how I should be over me. People expect you to be Black and act Black. And so I do not put myself into those type of categories. So from my perspective, I think it's very important that we continue to educate ourselves and not victimize ourselves and be able to stand up for ourselves. We are grateful for CWB to have these sort of forums where we can express these things, but people need to understand that it's real. It's real. It's a global phenomenon, but it affects certain people more than others because of our circumstances. So I want to actually say to those that are listening to us that yes, it is real, but please understand that it affects certain people more because of how the society is structured, some of the things that go beyond what we can see, and sometimes we kind of do things without knowing because it's common thing that we've been doing, we see our parents doing, we see our previous managers or bosses doing, and so we continue to do them. And because the Black history here in America has its own challenges. In the beginning, people couldn't speak, and as we speak and we continue to speak, our voices is being heard more and more. So we should continue to talk. We should continue to express ourselves, and we're grateful that there are people here in CWB that are listening and are actually making changes.
That's amazing. And that just goes to speak to the power of allyship and just having advocates, in different spaces. I never thought about the barriers that people face who come as international students or workers and I can't imagine having a passport seized and you feel like you're at the mercy of someone in order to make progress in your career. So thanks for sharing that perspective, Jose. And just to, pause on that thought process and the reality of the importance of having a healthy mental health space to be able to come to work as your full self and be productive. Sometimes we underestimate because we're looked at as like, the strong Black woman who shows up at work, but sometimes she's not strong and she needs help. And just pausing to recognize that and taking a day to recharge or whatever it is that we need is truly important. So thank you, Jose. I look at you as someone that, I look up to you in your career and what you've done with the bank. And I'm sure there are other people that are up and coming that are just starting. And, if you had any kind of piece of advice for someone who's a new graduate just joining the workforce at the corporation, like, do you have any bits of advice or words of wisdom that you would pass on to them to help them kind of start the journey right or be prepared for the journey ahead?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting question that we can answer in many different ways. I think the circumstances we are in, we are within a CWB work setting, but the issue that we're trying to address here is beyond CWB. And so when you look at a young Black employee or young Black graduate, which is the focus of the topic, I think we have to look at it from a bigger context. The issue we're talking about here has to do a lot with dependency. Okay. So because you depend on the other people, they have the power to exercise authority and do things over you that actually stress you. So as young Black graduates coming in, I would say that we have to think differently. Uh, a lot of people kind of tell us you could do anything you want to do, be anything you want to be. But there is another side to this. Okay. Sean Rochester has a book called CPI for the Soul, where he actually talk about a passage of the Bible. About it goes, I'm not a priest, so it goes something around the parable of the seed, something like that. And it says that a farmer goes planting, and then he plants seeds. Some actually forms fertile soil, others in rocks, and others in a different environment. So the very same seed, because it forms fertile soil, it's able to grow and produce and be fruitful. The other ones, on the other hand, don't make it at all. So your circumstances actually have a lot to do with who you are and who you become. So a lot of Black young people come here, and especially the young guys. If you have a chance, because for the older people, some of them just come here with a career already, and they have to switch jobs and do something they weren't supposed to do or are not trained to do, but they have to survive. So they do that, but their skill set is nowhere near what they could be doing, right? If you listen to Steve Harvey, he's got a very good advice about your skills and your abilities and your gift. And he goes and says that your gift is the thing you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. So as young Black graduate, you have to look at yourself from that perspective, because that kind of gives you the opportunity to be an entrepreneur and also create a working environment where you not only have to be the employee, but you could also be the boss. Okay, so it's important that these young folk think like that as well. Okay, when we create companies and businesses, and we support those Black communities, Black businesses, it's beneficial for the entire community, the entire Canadian economy. So I would say to those young folks that yes, it's good to go work, but you also have to think differently. So you will not always put yourself in a position like your father did, right? Uh, Look at your skill set, look at your gift, and be able to create and produce and contribute to the economy in a very different way. That would be my advice to those young folks.
Very sound advice, and I'm sure a lot of people are taking notes and going to move forward with those tips that you provided? Because we look back and we're like, oh, I wish I'd known, right? Or I wish I had someone at that point that I could look up to when I was starting off my career. So thanks for sharing, Jose. Mami, if I can ask you a similar question just around, so Jose, we focused on how to encourage younger people in building their careers. So that's kind of more serious stuff. But how about if you just, these young people are just having these conversations, casual water cooler conversation, and this topic comes up of where do you live? And they're taken by surprise. Do you have any kind of guidance that or words that they can use, or, ways that they can handle these situations better?
Yes, thank you, Morenike. I think Jose has spoken a lot about it, so I will just add a bit more to it. I think that first of all, you have to know who you are, because if you don't know who you are, the wind will blow you anywhere, right? If I can put it that way. Like today, somebody will tell you you are this, and then you start wondering, oh, am I this? And then tomorrow somebody will say something different. So it's very important to know who you actually are. And like take advantage of the giftings, the talents, and the abilities that you have been given, because we all come into this world with various gifts and talents. We all can do the same thing. So whatever you do, be great at it, because when you're very good at what you do, you have a lot of confidence. And even when somebody is telling you something that is contrary to what you know, you are able to stand up confidently and say that, no, this is not who I am. So you need to know who you are. And I think that they should also have the right mindset, right? So there's a saying in the Bible that says that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, right? So if you don't see yourself as worthy or as being good enough, then people will take advantage of you, and they will tell you who you are and what kind of mold that you should fit in. So be confident in yourself, know who you are, and always do your best, no matter what, because you've been given a lot of opportunity, because some people might not have the same opportunity you have, yet they're making the best out of it. So being in this country, it is a great opportunity. So take advantage, learn as much as you can, because knowledge is power. Because I don't think if a Black person has the cure for cancer, people will say that, no, I'm not going to go to this person because he or she is Black. They would go, right? So learn as much as you can. Don't waste your time on unnecessary things. Have fun. Yes, I get that. But learn as much as you can and be the best that you can at all times.
Be the best that you can at all times.
That's
Thank
very
you.
interesting. It sounds like Dr. King's speech about what is a new life blueprint. I don't know if you ever heard, but that's one of the best speeches of Dr. King that you could possibly think of. And he precisely talked about everything you just said, Mami. So that is a great piece of advice. I think young folks should actually look at that, because your life blueprint would help you to understand how you move forward, who you are, the type of confidence Mami is talking about, and how you can actually function within a society. So I think it's a great advice, and Mami, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks for summarizing that so well. And I mean, I think on that note, let's look into the future a little bit. And I'm just gonna go to my friend Martine from Health 360 here. As we look into the future, we've had conversations about how to approach people, how to respond to these kinds of situations, and just making sure that we do, like Mame and Jose have talked about, having the right mindset. It's so impactful in helping us maintain that healthy mental health space for ourselves as we come to work on a daily basis. So would you have any thoughts on or any comments for us, Martine, from that perspective?
Yes, and already just thank you to everyone on this podcast for putting yourself out there and sharing your thoughts and experiences with us. And I think that stems into mental health in general, that it is unique to the individual experiencing it, and that can be impacted by experience